The battlefield burned under a black sky. Explosions shook the ground, sending dust and sparks flying through the ruined city streets. Human soldiers fought in desperate silence, their voices drowned out by the roar of alien weapons. Private Jack Miller pressed his back against a wall, clutching his rifle. His chest heaved with every breath. His squad was gone, scattered by the last wave of plasma fire. Smoke filled the air, thick and choking, but through the haze he saw something that made him freeze. A child. Not human. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, scales shimmering like fragments of starlight. Wide, terrified eyes darted as she crouched beside a broken pillar. She was no soldier, no fighter, just a little alien girl caught in the crossfire, and the enemy had seen her. 2 alien troopers advanced from the smoke, rifles raised. Their armor gleamed, their movements cold and efficient. They aimed at the girl who pressed herself against the pillar, trembling. Jack didn't think. He moved. Charging from cover, he fired his rifle, shots sparking against the trooper's armor. They staggered, surprised but not down. Plasma bolts hissed past his head as he dove forward, sliding in front of the girl. "Stay down," he shouted, though he knew she couldn't understand him. One trooper raised a grenade launcher, its barrel glowing hot. Jack saw it too late. The weapon fired, and in the heartbeat before the explosion, instinct took over. He threw himself over the girl. The blast ripped the street apart. Shrapnel tore into Jack's back, burning metal slicing through armor and flesh. Pain roared through him like fire, but he stayed there, shielding her. His vision blurred, his ears rang, and darkness swallowed him. When Jack's eyes opened again, he expected more pain. He expected rubble, smoke, maybe nothing at all. Instead, he saw light, soft golden light filtering through strange walls that pulsed as if alive. He blinked, confused. His body felt heavy, bandaged, and whole. The pain was still there but dulled, like someone had pulled him back from the edge. Voices whispered around him. Not human voices. Soft, melodic alien tones that rose and fell like a song. He turned his head slowly. Dozens of eyes looked back at him. He was surrounded. Tall alien figures in flowing robes stood in a circle around his bed, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. At their center was the little girl he had saved. She stepped forward, her hands folded nervously, her gaze fixed on him. Jack tried to sit up, but hands pressed gently against his shoulders, keeping him down. The aliens weren't hostile, they were watching, studying. The girl spoke first. Her words were strange, her language alien, but her voice carried warmth. She pointed at him, then at herself, her small face trembling with emotion. One of the robed figures translated in halting English, a voice low and careful. "She says, you gave yourself for her. She says you are. Guardian." Jack blinked, his throat dry. "Guardian." The girl nodded quickly, her eyes wide and bright. Around them, the robed aliens bowed their heads slightly as though acknowledging something sacred. Jack lay back against the bed, heart pounding. He had no idea where he was or why he was alive, but one thing was clear. His choice on the battlefield had changed everything. He had saved a child. And now, in a place he didn't understand, he was surrounded by those who would never forget it. Jack woke to the steady rhythm of something not quite mechanical. The walls of the chamber pulsed faintly, like veins carrying light instead of blood. Every breath he took filled his lungs with air that smelled clean but strange, sharp with herbs he couldn't name. When he tried to sit up, pain lanced through his back. He hissed and sank down again, gritting his teeth. A figure appeared beside him. One of the robed aliens, tall, graceful, with long silver markings across their face. They placed a hand on his chest, shaking their head gently. "Rest," the voice said in halting English. "Your body, healing." Jack stared. English broken but real. "You can speak my language?" The alien hesitated. "Little. Enough." Before Jack could ask more, small footsteps approached. The little girl peeked from behind another figure, her glowing eyes locked on him. When she saw he was awake, she ran forward, her robe trailing, and stopped right beside his bed. Jack blinked at her. She was the same child he'd shielded on the battlefield, but now her face wasn't filled with fear. It was filled with something else. Wonder. She reached out a small hand, touching his bandaged arm lightly. Her voice was soft, melodic, her words unknown. The translator from earlier stepped closer. "She says, you are Guardian. She says you are hers." Jack swallowed hard. "I'm not anyone's, I just..." Couldn't let her die. The translator tilted their head. To her, that is, everything. The circle of aliens around the bed murmured among themselves. Their voices rose and fell like waves. Jack didn't understand the words, but he felt the weight of their tone. Respect, awe. He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I'm just a soldier. I did what anyone would do. The translator's eyes glowed faintly. No, others did not. Others ran. You stayed. You bled. The girl nodded quickly, her hand gripping his tighter as if afraid he might vanish. Jack sighed, his throat tight. And now what? What happens to me? The translator paused, then spoke carefully. You are in the sanctuary. You are safe. But outside, war rages. Humans fight our kind. Our kind fights back, yet you broke the cycle. Jack frowned. By saving one child? The alien's expression softened. Sometimes one choice changes more than many battles. The girl leaned closer, speaking again in her musical voice. The translator smiled faintly. She says, she will not leave your side. Jack closed his eyes, overwhelmed. He hadn't thought about what came next. On the battlefield, there was no next. There was only survival. But now, lying here surrounded by aliens who looked at him like some kind of symbol, he realized his life wasn't his alone anymore. The chamber quieted. Drifting into uneasy sleep, Jack dreamed of fire, of shrapnel tearing through him, of the girl's terrified eyes. But this time, in the dream, when the blast came, he didn't fall. The girl stood in front of him, her hand glowing with the same light he'd seen in her people's eyes. When he woke again, the girl was still there, curled up on a chair beside him, asleep but clutching his hand tightly. Jack stared at her for a long moment. He felt the weight of the word she had given him, even if he didn't fully understand it. Guardian. The translator returned quietly and placed a bowl of clear liquid on the table beside him. Drink. Strength will come. Jack nodded slowly. His voice was hoarse but steady. All right. But when I'm strong enough, I need answers. Why did your doctors give up on her? Why was she left alone? The translator's face darkened, shadows flickering across the silver markings. Because she is not ordinary. Because some fear what they cannot control. Jack felt a chill crawl up his spine. He looked at the girl again, at the faint glow beneath her skin, and realized there was more at stake than just her survival. He had saved her life. But now, he would have to fight to keep her free. Jack sat upright on the strange bed, his muscles aching but stronger than before. The little alien girl never strayed far, always at his side, her luminous eyes watching him with a mixture of curiosity and trust. That morning, the translator returned, joined by two older aliens in robes stitched with shimmering patterns. Their presence shifted the air in the chamber, solemn, heavy. They bowed their heads slightly before speaking. You saved her, the translator began, and now you must know. Who she is, Jack frowned. She's just a child. The translator's gaze lingered on the girl. She is more. She is the daughter of the High Counselor, heir to the Circle. Her life is sacred. The word sank into Jack like a stone dropped into deep water. He looked at the girl again, stunned. You mean, she's royalty? The translator nodded. Yes. When the attack came, her guards were slain. She was left behind in the chaos. The doctors judged her wounds too grave, so they abandoned her. But you did not. Jack clenched his fists. Rage simmered in his chest. They left her to die because it was easier? Because fear ruled them, the translator said. Her survival was deemed unlikely and resources scarce. But you changed that. The girl, hearing her name spoken softly by the translator, turned toward Jack. She smiled faintly, then placed her small hand against his chest. The translator added, She calls you guardian because to her you are the one who chose life over despair. Jack exhaled slowly, shaking his head. Guardian? I'm just a soldier who made a choice. The older alien in robes finally spoke, his voice deeper and firmer. One choice can move nations. Already word spreads through our people that a human bled to protect our heir. Some see hope. Others see danger. Jack looked sharply at him. Danger? The alien's glowing eyes darkened. Your armies fight ours. Blood has been spilled for years. Many will not believe your act was selfless. They will say you saved her for gain, for leverage. The overseer whispers already that you must die. For leverage. The overseer whispers already that you must die. Jack leaned forward, his voice tight. So I save her and now both sides want me gone? The translator lowered his head. It is possible. Humans may call you traitor for aiding us. Aliens may call you manipulator for taking her trust. But to her and to some of us, you are hope. Jack sat back heavily. The weight pressed against his chest like stone. He thought of the girl's trembling body on the battlefield, of her hand clinging to his now. He hadn't thought about politics or war. He had only wanted to save her. But now his choice had painted a target on his back. The girl tugged gently on his sleeve, pulling his attention. She spoke a few soft words, her voice uncertain but warm. The translator smiled faintly. She says you are safe here because she wills it so. Jack chuckled bitterly. Somehow I don't think her will alone will stop armies. The translator did not disagree. The overseer's spies are already searching. They know she survived. They know a human carries her trust. It is only a matter of time before they come. Dr. Lee's voice from memory rang in Jack's ears. Sometimes it's not about efficiency. It's about trying. Jack looked back at the girl, her small frame glowing faintly in the strange light. She had been left behind by her own people, but she had survived because he chose to stand. He touched the bandages on his chest, then nodded slowly. Then let them come. I'm not leaving her. The translator bowed deeply, the older aliens exchanging solemn glances. So be it. You are guardian in truth. Jack exhaled, the word settling in his chest again. Guardian. He hadn't asked for it. He hadn't wanted it. But now he couldn't turn away. The girl leaned against him, her head resting on his arm. Jack placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, a quiet vow forming in his heart. No matter what came, human suspicion, alien fear, the overseer's wrath, he would not fail her, even if the galaxy turned against him. The sanctuary was quiet, too quiet. Jack had spent the last few days walking its winding halls, learning to navigate the strange organic walls that pulsed faintly with light. He had healed enough to move on his own, though pain still lingered in his back where the shrapnel had torn him apart. The alien girl never left his side. She followed him everywhere, her small steps echoing softly. The others watched from a distance, bowing slightly whenever she passed, but their eyes always lingered on him. Some with respect, some with suspicion. Jack didn't care. His only focus was her safety. That night the stillness broke. He was dozing lightly when the girl stirred suddenly, her glowing eyes wide with fear. A hum filled the chamber, low and sharp, setting Jack's teeth on edge. He sat up quickly, hand reaching for the sidearm they had reluctantly given him. Then he heard it, the soft scrape of metal against stone. Shadows slipped through the sanctuary's doorway, tall figures clad in dark armor. Their movements were silent, predatory, assassins. Jack's pulse spiked. He shoved the girl gently behind him. Stay down, he whispered. The assassins spread out, weapons gleaming faintly in the low light. Jack fired first, his shot echoing like thunder in the chamber. One assassin dropped, but the others advanced swiftly. The girl cried out, her voice sharp and filled with fear. At once the air trembled with her energy. A faint glow spread across the walls, shaking the very ground. The assassins staggered, their steps faltering. Jack seized the moment. He charged forward, slamming into one attacker with brute force. Pain seared his back, but adrenaline kept him moving. He wrestled the weapon away and fired point blank, dropping the armored figure. The others recovered quickly, circling. One raised a blade, lunging at the girl. Jack spun, desperate, but before he could reach her, the girl's glow flared. A wave of energy blasted outward, hurling the assassin across the room. The figure slammed into the wall, armor sparking before it crumpled lifeless. The remaining assassin froze, shaken. For a moment, even through the visor, Jack saw fear. Then the figure retreated swiftly into the shadows, vanishing the way they had come. Silence fell again, broken only by Jack's ragged breathing. He lowered his weapon, sweat dripping down his face. The girl crawled forward and clung to his arm, her small body trembling. He held her close, heart still pounding. It's all right. I've got you. You're safe, but the word felt hollow. Safe wasn't true anymore. Moments later, guards from the sanctuary arrived, weapons ready, eyes wide at the carnage. They bowed quickly to the girl, then turned to Jack. Their translator spoke. They were not ours. They carried the overseer's mark. He has moved against her openly. Jack clenched his fists. Then it's only going to get worse. The translator's face was grim. The overseer will not stop. Not while she lives. And not while you guard her. Jack looked down at the girl, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She whispered something faintly, and the translator supplied the meaning. "Do not leave me." Jack tightened his hold, his voice steady. "I won't." Later, when the chamber was quiet again, Jack sat awake, the sidearm resting in his lap. He couldn't sleep. Every shadow looked like another assassin waiting to strike. The girl had fallen asleep beside him, her head against his arm, her faint glow painting the room with soft light. Jack stared at her and whispered to himself, "You're not just a child. You're the key to something bigger, and that makes you a target." His jaw set, his chest heavy with the weight of the word that haunted him now more than ever. Guardian. And if the overseer wanted to test how far that role went, Jack was ready to bleed for it again. The council chamber buzzed with argument. Aliens in shimmering robes shouted over one another, their voices sharp with fear. Jack stood in the center, the little girl clutching his hand tightly, her glowing eyes wide as she listened. The translator raised his voice above the noise. "The overseer's assassins entered our sanctuary. This is no longer safe. They will keep coming." One counselor slammed a hand against the table. "Then cast the child out. She draws death to us all." "Let the human keep her if he is so eager to be guardian." Jack's jaw tightened. He wanted to lash out, but the girl squeezed his hand, grounding him. Another counselor shook her head. "If the overseer takes her, the circle falls. Our people will lose their future. She must live." The older alien who had first explained her identity finally rose. His voice was deep and heavy with authority. "There is no choice. The overseer's shadow stretches even here. The girl must leave. If she remains, all of us die." The chamber fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward Jack. He exhaled slowly. "Then I'll take her. Wherever we have to go, whatever comes, I'll keep her safe." The girl pressed closer against his side. The translator nodded. "So it shall be. But know this, human. You leave the sanctuary as hunted prey. The overseer will chase you, and your own people may not accept you either. You carry a burden no one else will bear." Jack's voice was firm. "I didn't ask for it, but I'll carry it." They left at dawn. The sanctuary guards gave Jack a pack of supplies and a cloak to cover the girl's glow. Dr. Lee, who had remained in the city since helping him escape, rejoined them at the gates. Her eyes widened when she saw the girl clinging to him. "You really did it," she whispered. "You've become her whole world." Jack gave a humorless smile. "Feels like I've become her whole shield." Together they slipped into the wastelands beyond the sanctuary. The desert stretched endlessly, broken only by jagged cliffs and rusted wreckage from wars long past. The heat pressed down and the silence was broken only by the wind. They traveled for hours, always watching the sky for drones. By midday they reached the ruins of an old outpost. Crumbling walls offered some shelter, and they rested in the shade. The girl sat quietly beside Jack, sipping carefully from a flask. Her eyes glowed faintly even in the daylight. She whispered a word in her tongue, repeating it softly. Jack looked at Dr. Lee. "Can you translate that?" She adjusted her small device. The word flashed on the screen. "Home." Jack's chest tightened. He looked at her and said softly, "I don't know where that is for you anymore, but I'll get you there. I promise." The girl smiled faintly, resting her head on his arm. The promise was barely spoken when the silence broke. Engines roared in the distance. Dust clouds rose on the horizon. Jack's instincts screamed. He grabbed the girl and pulled her behind cover. Dr. Lee crouched low, scanning the sky. "They've found us," she muttered. Black transports swept over the desert, their insignia marked with the overseer's crest. Soldiers spilled out, weapons gleaming. Jack's heart pounded. He checked his sidearm, only a few shots left. He turned to Dr. Lee. "Take her if I fall. Don't let them take her alive." Dr. Lee's eyes widened. "Jack, no arguments," he said sharply. The girl clung to him, whispering again. The translator buzzed, "Guardian." Jack stood, weapon raised. The soldiers advanced, forming a wide circle. Their commander shouted in a harsh voice, "Human, give us the child and you may live." Jack laughed bitterly. "That's the worst offer I've ever heard." He fired first. The blast echoed across the ruins, dropping one soldier. The others returned fire, plasma scorching the walls. Jack ducked, pulling the girl close, his body shielding hers again. Then it happened. The girl's glow intensified, brighter than ever before. Her hum rose into a piercing tone, vibrating through the ruins. The soldiers faltered, clutching their weapons as sparks flew. Jack looked at her in shock. "You're doing this." Jack looked at her in shock. "You're doing this." The girl's eyes glowed like twin stars. She raised her small hands and a pulse of energy burst outward. Soldiers were hurled back, weapons shattering, transports sparking as engines failed. The battlefield fell silent. Smoke rose from the wreckage. The girl slumped forward, weak but breathing. Jack caught her, holding her tight. Dr. Lee whispered, awe in her voice. "She's not just special. She's powerful enough to change everything." Jack looked at the wreckage, then down at the child in his arms. His voice was steady, heavy with certainty. "Then the Overseer's right about one thing. She is dangerous." He lifted her gently, meeting Dr. Lee's gaze, but only to those who'd try to hurt her. And with that, they slipped deeper into the wastelands, leaving the broken soldiers behind. The desert stretched for miles, heat shimmering against the horizon. Jack walked with the girl on his back, her small arms wrapped loosely around his shoulders. Dr. Lee trudged beside them, her face set in grim determination. The ruins behind them were still smoking, proof of how close they'd come to death. By nightfall, they found shelter in a rocky canyon. A small fire flickered between the stones, casting long shadows on the walls. Jack laid the girl down gently, covering her with a blanket. Her faint glow dimmed as she drifted into sleep, but even exhausted, her presence filled the air with quiet strength. Dr. Lee broke the silence. "Word of what happened will spread fast. Soldiers thrown back by a child's power. That won't stay hidden." Jack stared into the fire. "The Overseer won't let it. He'll use it to fuel fear," she nodded. "And fear makes people blind. Some will believe she's a weapon, others will think she's a threat to their survival." Jack's jaw tightened. "She's a child. She's not a weapon." Dr. Lee gave him a hard look. "But if she can cripple transports with a thought, that makes her more dangerous than any plasma rifle. To the Overseer, that's reason enough to hunt her to the ends of the galaxy." Jack clenched his fists, anger simmering. He remembered the girl's tiny hand gripping his when he first woke, the way she whispered guardian. She wasn't a weapon. She was someone who needed him. Before he could answer, a low hum filled the canyon. Jack's head shot up. Drones. He moved quickly, dousing the fire. Red lights swept across the rocks above as shadows moved against the starlit sky. "Scouts," Dr. Lee whispered. "He's tightening the net." They crouched low, holding their breath as the drones passed. The girl stirred in her sleep, her glow pulsing faintly as if sensing the danger. Jack placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, whispering, "It's all right. I've got you." The glow calmed. The hum of the drones faded, leaving silence once more, but the message was clear. The Overseer was closing in. The next morning, they pushed on through the canyon, heading deeper into the wastelands. Jack's muscles ached, but he carried the girl without complaint. Every step weighed heavier, but so did his resolve. By midday, they stumbled upon a ruined communications tower, its skeletal frame jutting into the sky. Dr. Lee climbed inside, searching for usable parts. "This might let me intercept signals," she called down. "If the Overseer is broadcasting orders, we can know before they reach us." Jack waited below with the girl. She sat in his lap, her glowing eyes studying him intently. She reached up, placing a hand against his chest. A hum vibrated through him, warm and steady. For a moment, the pain in his back eased, his exhaustion lifting. Jack blinked. "You're helping me?" She tilted her head, smiling faintly. The translator device crackled as she whispered, "Strong guardian." Jack swallowed hard. "I'm only strong because of you, kid." Dr. Lee climbed down, face pale. "Jack, you need to hear this." She handed him a cracked headset. Static gave way to a cold, commanding voice. "The Overseer, the human soldier, has taken the anomaly. They spread lies of guardianship and hope. Crush this fantasy. Find them, destroy them, and let all who hide them burn." Jack's grip tightened on the headset. The Overseer's words dripped with venom. Every syllable meant to turn the galaxy against them. Dr. Lee's expression was grim. "He's not just hunting us. He's rallying an army." Jack looked down at the girl, her wide eyes watching him. His heart pounded with the weight of the word that now defined him. Guardian running would never be enough. Not anymore. He stood slowly, his voice steady despite the fire in his chest. "If the Overseer wants to paint her as a weapon, then we prove him wrong. We show she's worth more alive than anything he can destroy." Dr. Lee frowned. "That means fighting back," Jack nodded. "Then that's what we'll do." The girl leaned against him, her hum rising again, stronger this time, steadier. As if answering his vow, Jack held her close, his gaze fixed on the horizon. The overseer's net was closing, but he wouldn't run forever. If they wanted a guardian, he'd give them one, even if it meant standing against the galaxy itself. The wastelands were silent under the starlit sky. Jack stood at the edge of a broken plateau, the girl beside him, her faint glow shimmering like a small star in the dark. Dr. Lee adjusted her pack nervously, scanning the horizon with tense eyes. Then the silence shattered. Engines thundered as black transport swept into view, kicking up dust clouds. Lines of soldiers in dark armor poured from their bays, rifles glowing as they advanced in perfect formation. At their center strode the overseer, crimson robes billowing, silver mask gleaming under the moonlight. His voice echoed across the canyon. "Human, hand me the anomaly, and your death will be swift. Refuse, and you will suffer as all traitors do." Jack stepped forward, placing himself in front of the girl. His voice was steady even as his heart pounded. "She's not an anomaly. She's not a weapon. She's a child. And you're not laying a finger on her." The overseer tilted his head, the mask reflecting Jack's defiance. "You bleed for her, but she will be your doom. Her power is chaos. It must be controlled." Jack shook his head. "No, it must be protected." The overseer raised his hand. Soldiers aimed their rifles. The girl pressed close against Jack, her small fingers clutching his hand. She whispered softly, the translator buzzing, "Guardian." Jack tightened his grip on his weapon. "That's right. And I won't fail you." The first volley erupted. Plasma bolts seared through the air, scorching the plateau. Jack returned fire, dropping one soldier then another. But there were too many. Dr. Lee fired beside him, covering his flank. Then the girl stepped forward. Her glow intensified, her body trembling as energy surged within her. A hum rose into a piercing note, vibrating through the battlefield. Soldiers staggered, weapons sparking uselessly. The overseer raised his hand, a shield of crimson energy deflecting the pulse. His voice thundered. "See, she is destruction." Jack stood tall beside her, his voice cutting through the chaos. "No, she's hope." The girl's eyes glowed brighter like twin suns. She raised her small hands and a wave of energy burst outward. The ground shook. Transports toppled. Soldiers were hurled back and the night sky blazed with light. The overseer roared, pushing against the storm with his crimson shield. Step by step, he forced his way forward, his blade of pure plasma igniting in his hand. He lunged at Jack. Jack met him head-on, raising his rifle to block the strike. Sparks flew as plasma met steel. Pain tore through his arms, but he held firm, standing between the overseer and the girl. The overseer's voice was a hiss. "You will die, and she will be mine." Jack gritted his teeth, forcing the blade back an inch. "Not while I'm breathing," the girl cried out, her voice carrying across the battlefield. Her glow erupted into blinding brilliance, enveloping Jack. Strength surged through him, his wounds dulling, his arms steadying. He pushed forward, knocking the overseer back. For the first time, the tyrant staggered. The girl stepped beside Jack, her small form blazing with power. Together, they faced the overseer. Jack raised his weapon. The girl raised her hands, and their voices, human and alien, became one silent vow. The pulse that followed was unlike anything before. It was not raw destruction. It was controlled, focused, guided by trust. The energy tore through the overseer's shield, shattering it like glass. His mask cracked, his body flung back against the rocks. The battlefield fell silent. Soldiers dropped their weapons, stunned by what they had witnessed. The overseer struggled to rise, his mask broken, his face revealed, twisted with fear. He looked at the girl and spat. "You will doom us all." Jack aimed his rifle, his voice cold. "No, she'll save us." The overseer collapsed unconscious, his rein broken. The girl's glow dimmed slowly, her strength spent. She leaned against Jack, whispering softly, "Guardian." Jack knelt, holding her close. "Yeah, I'll always be your guardian." Around them, the soldiers began to retreat, leaving their broken leader behind. The wasteland grew quiet again, filled only with the sound of the wind. Dr. Lee stepped forward, exhaustion in her eyes but hope on her face. "You did it. Both of you." Jack shook his head, looking down at the girl. "No, she did it. I just stood where I was needed." As dawn broke over the wastelands, painting the sky in gold, Jack carried the girl in his arms. She was more than a child, more than a symbol. She was life, and he would protect her always. The galaxy had tried to call her an anomaly, a weapon, a threat. But to him she was something else. She was his reason. But to him she was something else. She was his reason.